it started a process where I started getting closer and closer to God. And in late February, God, I wouldn't say I would say that God told me, basically told me, and made it very clear to me that he didn't want me dating. And I said to God, like, you know, like, why not? You know, I'm single. Like, there's people that want to, like, I don't know, maybe how am I going to find my husband if I'm not dating? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And he was like, hold on, hold on. So you think that I can't put you in the vicinity of the man? How do you know you haven't encountered him yet? Like, how do you know that, like, there's so many, how do you know? You don't even know. He may be watching you now. You don't even know. And I'm like, or you might know him. You might have encountered him. He might have seen you. Y'all might already be in contact. But since you out here distracted by men that aren't your husband, because I can tell you now, none of them your husband. Like, none of men that are taking that are pressing you to be in a relationship, that are pressing you to be a wife, they are not, none of the guys that are coming at you about being a wife right now are your husband. Those are counterfeits that the enemy has sent to take you away from what is promised. What is promised is being prepared. That man ain't ready yet. And I was like, that man ain't ready yet? What you mean? So I'm supposed to wait until he's ready? Like, and then and God tells me at that point, you ain't ready either. So I'm glad you brought that up. You're not either. And so it began a process of God. Y'all, I'm gonna tell the story because it has to be clear. So I'm driving in the car and I'm minding my business, right? And I'm driving in the car and I just feel the prompting of God telling me to stop dating, like to stop, not even just stop dating. The prompting in the car, and I wrote it down, I'll never forget it. It was like, conduct yourself as if you're already in a relationship, because I've already tied you to the person that you're supposed to be with. And I'm like, perdóneme? I don't even speak Spanish. I says, perdóneme? Okay. I was like, God, if that's you, if that is you, I need you. There was a number that I was seeing a lot that represented marriage, right? So there was a number that was representing a lot. And I was like, okay, God, I get it. I'm supposed to be married again. Somebody's wife. I understand that. Because God, family, when God starts to speak to you, he's very clear. And that's why I say to you guys, you have to really get into the word and really get close to God. When you clear up the channels, you're becoming more and more obedient. He becomes very clear. Now you can hear him or listen to him if you want to, but he becomes very clear. And so he basically, you know, was said to me very clearly, I knew I was being prepared to be a wife again. And I knew I was being prepared amongst other things with my channel, just different things I was supposed to be doing. But I knew, like, I knew God was dealing with me in the area of marriage. Like, that was my ministry. Whatever I was being called to, I was being prepared for that. And I had to get in the right alignment, and God had to break certain pains that I still had up, walls I had up that were making me feel like I didn't want to get married because I had been hurt so bad in the past. And so anyway, what ends up happening is, I kid you not, I feel this prompting. God's telling me that I should conduct myself. Good question, D Hood Reeler. I'm actually going to put that to the side because I'm going to answer that in just a second. So as I'm driving, I feel this prompting to conduct myself like I'm in a relationship. So I'm like, I don't understand that. That don't make sense to me. I don't understand why I would do that when I'm not in a relationship. I'm not talking consistently to a man. Like, there's men that are pursuing me. Why wouldn't I continue to communicate with these guys? You know, I'm abstinent. I've already committed to that. So why do I have to stop dating them if I'm not doing anything with them anyway? And it just kept, I said, okay, God, you know what? I'm not going to do this with you. If you want me to do this, put this number on a sign, like, and it can't be a license plate, and it can't be a mailbox, and it can't be the time. Those are the three things I said. I was like, let me see this number. If you show me this number again, and it's not in obvious times where I'm looking at 310 and turn, whatever. If I see this number again, I know it's you. Like, do it in a way I know it's you. So I'm driving y'all 8 hours later. I'm feeling a conviction. I said to myself, you know what, God? Like, I don't want to test you. That's not who I want to be, blah, blah, blah. And so what ends up happening is I'm at the point of, in the car ride, conceding, like, God, if that's really what you want for me to do, then, whatever. So as I'm conceding, like I'm surrendering to God, I see I kid you not, family, a broke down gas station. This gas station is not active, but it happens to have a overpass into the highway, so that while I'm driving, it's literally in my view, like, but it's not an active gas station. So there is no gas happening. There's usually no numbers there. Okay. I mean, literally, it has been broken down. I used to live in that area. It's been broken down for years. There's usually not any numbers there. So as I'm driving past it and I'm conceding to God, I look at this thing, and it literally, family, it was giant letters, giant numbers. The number that I had just said was in giant letters on this gas station that's not active. On the so it's in my face. I literally screamed. I'm like, you're lying. I'm like, God, you've got a sense of humor, because that is correct. To me, y'all, and I kept looking like, when you have a gas station number, you see that number frequently, like you would see it over and over again. No other gas station had that number, because it was significantly higher than the unleaded price at that time. So like the unleaded price is like $2.80 something here in Atlanta, right? It was low. This number was like up. It was like 25 cents more than what the price was. So no other gas station had this number. And mind you, this was a non-active gas station that had not changed its numbers in years. Okay. So I'm saying to myself, I laugh. I'm like, God, you are funny. Like literally, I think I call a friend of mine. I'm like, Pam, it might have been you. I call a friend of mine. I'm like, Pam, you would not believe. It was somebody. I know it was somebody. I could not believe. I was sitting there like, okay, all right. I was going, I heard it. So at that point in time, from that moment, I stopped dating. And from there, God started moving tremendously in my life. So I knew that at the time I was in right alignment. I knew, because the doors started opening, things started happening. Like it was like God was just moving in my life in a miraculous way. And I knew for certain it was God. Now, D Hood Reeler, wait, how do you tell the difference between your inner thoughts and God talking to you? I would never tell me to stop dating when I don't have, like, to stop talking to other men when I don't have a man that I'm consistently talking to, nor do I have a man that's like, I could, I'm not going to tell me that. That's not a Sam thing to tell Sam. Sam has never been the type of woman in my life to be like, oh, I've literally come on here and told y'all that if I'm not in commitment with you, you can safely assume I'm talking to somebody else. I'm not the sleeping around type. That's not my thing. But if we are not in a commitment, do not expect committed activity from me. All right. I've literally gone on this platform and told y'all that. So how do I know that was God's voice? Because I would never say that. That didn't make sense to me. It was literally had nothing to do with whatever I wanted to do. And then in addition to that, God was saying, the enemy would tell me, keep talking to guys, keep being distracted. Why? He would be the other voice that's echoing my voice saying, what are you doing? Why would you do that? You should just keep on dating. How are you going to meet him? Blah, 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 blah. All those things. No. God was like, walk in faith. God's option is always going to require the down payment of faith. And I knew me not talking to people and me trusting God and allowing him to process me required faith. My way didn't require faith. My way was off of what I was seeing. His way is, you trust me. And so I did. And I went in a process. I went through a process where I went into it thinking that I was ready for something. And be completely honest with you. I thought I was ready. But I wasn't. He started to confront me about pain I still was carrying, baggage I still had. He started dealing with me about how I didn't want to be vulnerable, yet I wanted to have someone be vulnerable with me. How I was so afraid of being disappointed. My fear of disappointment paralyzed me. He started dealing with me about how certain insecurities, how I would overthink my way out of things, how I would sabotage myself, how I would just different things, my tendency to run when God was calling me to stay. He was like, listen, I'm actually going to bring you through a process where you ain't got no reason to stay, but you staying anyway. I'm going to make you're now walking in a commitment without needing to walk in a commitment. Because from that moment on, family, from that moment on, I was committed to God. My dreams started getting more vivid. The giftings in my spirit started happening. I started hearing things and knowing things, and I couldn't explain some of the things that was coming out of my mouth that were happening. I couldn't explain the dreams that were starting to happen in real life. I couldn't explain it. I couldn't connect the two. I couldn't explain how I was, saying to something to be healed and it would heal. I couldn't explain it. And so in that situation, I realized that my obedience, which Chris is all throughout the Bible, being obedient to God is not a foreign concept. Being obedient to God absolutely brings you closer to God. And if you need me to send you 100 scriptures that talk about how being obedient to God, doing what it literally says in the Bible that if you don't do what God is telling you to do and you don't do it, it's still counted as a sin. It's not just about the 10 commandments or all the other things that I think there's like 600 and something Mosaic laws in the Old Testament. It's about if he tells you to do something and you still choose not to do it, it's still counted against you. So in that moment, God was calling me to be obedient. And dating is a modern concept. They were not dating in biblical times. They were getting married. That's what they were doing. Dating and marriage were completely different processes in the Jewish culture. It's a family thing. It was based on a lot of other factors. So dating is not in the Bible because it was not a thing. Let's move forward to move backwards. So I went on this journey and God started dealing with me about, myself and dealing with who I am and how I've defined myself and different aspects of myself of like how I was posting. Now, I wasn't posting myself half naked or anything like that. Well, I was doing fitness posts and maybe times whatever. It was a little too much. I can say that it wasn't my family, my daddy and my mom follow me. And my brothers follow me. So I've always said, like, if they call me out, then I know I'm going too far, but they've never called me out. So I felt like I was on the line. God wasn't about that. God wasn't about that. God immediately, God was not immediately. It was like later on in my journey. God started to deal with me about my posts. God started to deal with me. And you know, I changed directions in my content. I changed all different things. But again, God ultimately kept dealing with me in specific areas. And it all started with trusting him in my date. Hey guys, thank you for watching this video. I appreciate you guys. Go ahead, hit the subscribe button, y'all. Let's not just be every once in a while. Let's become family, okay? Friends that are family, okay? Join my family today.